Hello, everybody.
Hello.
And welcome to Coffee Class with Young Screenwriters. We are an online resource community for upcoming screenwriters. And today we are taking a look at the amazing series, Good Omens.
Oh, is it amazing? I didn't know you liked it that much.
I really enjoyed it. I was surprised. I really enjoyed it.
See, Alexie, I have yet to be wrong. I have yet to recommend
you're right,
a show
but
that
I
you
still will
dislike.
Resist for months every time.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, I think you and I probably like it around the same level because
Totally.
I really liked it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I had a good time.
I don't know that I'd rewatch it for pleasure. It's not one of my faves of all time, but I would tell someone you should watch that.
I enjoyed rewatching the pilot, and I enjoyed moments of the rest of the series. But I will tell you, episode 5 was a little bit of a struggle for me.
Yeah, that's about when I started being like, Carl, I'm going to go get a drink. You don't have to pause it.
Right. But to be fair, I want to talk about that. And I also, so you had the point of view of somebody who was new to the series and the book.
Yeah.
I read the book in 2004 and in 2012. So I'm a big Terry Pratchett fan and I'm a really big Neil Gaiman fan. So I came in with all of that baggage, which is definitely a perspective.
A different friend recommended Terry Pratchett, The Going Postal. And I was like, okay, I'll go get it. Then I looked at it and I was like, wait, this is that Discworld thing Adam keeps talking about.
Do I talk about it
too late?
Huh? Do I talk about it too that much?
No, just enough that I was like, why is this familiar? And then I pulled it up and I was like, wait a freaking minute.
Yeah.
It's that.
So high level thought wise, this series for me, just as a fan, I think the best parts of it were the parts that weren't faithful to the book and where they were just doing new things and where they were just really exploring Aziraphale and Crowley's relationship. That for me is the best television and the most interesting stuff. Whereas in the book, Crowley and Aziraphale were kind of funny side characters and it was all about Adam. And Adam was the most interesting. The Antichrist stuff was really great in the book, in my opinion. And I thought it just didn't land quite as hard. But that's aside from, that's just my opinion, man.
For some reason, I've disappeared.
Yeah, you have tried turning your camera on and off again.
Yeah. Let's see. You might. Let's see.
I can just start my quick breakdown of the pilot, and then while you try to figure it out.
I'm back, but you can still do that.
Oh, Samantha, interesting. You only read the pilot script.
Yeah.
Interesting. You should watch it. It's the execution tone-wise is at a very high level. A lot of the jokes are the performances are really good. And I feel like a lot of the lines are a lot funnier than it reads on the page, even if it is oh yeah, that's a joke. That's funny. A lot of classic British humor is like that for me.
Well, that's what you and I demonstrated when we read the parts yesterday.
Oh yeah, we're terrible actors. Yeah. We read out a scene in a workshop, the opening scene, and we are not as funny as David Tennant and Michael Sheen. But
we tried. Okay, why don't you go ahead and do
it? So we're just going to talk about the pilot first and foremost for this episode because I think it's really well done and it really shows the promise of the concept. So we open up on the classic Garden of Eden narrative, the snake and the apple and this man being tempted to eat the apple and Eve and sort of the knowledge. It's a biblical, scene. And immediately after we sort of zoom out to sort of see the snake or this angel sort of surveying the Garden of Eden and the lands outside, and the snake that was tempting Adam transforms into a demon. And they start to have this banter, sort of being oh, that seems a little harsh though, right? Having, being kicked out, first offense and everything, and the great moment was for me was specifically just sort of being well, it was a little obvious. I mean, he puts the tree in the middle of the garden and he expects it with a don't touch sign. Did you really think that was going to work? And we immediately from this first scene, we learn these are two members of, we have a demon and an angel who have all of these. We all have expectations and beliefs about what that means in like Judeo-Christianity and what the roles are supposed to play. And we immediately get the sense of these are actually people, and they're complicated, and they're trying to understand just as much as everybody else what's going on and why they're doing. And there's this great moment where we sort of have the whole moral question of the series, at least from Aziraphale and Crowley's point of view, was sort of like, well, if you did it and you're an angel, it must be good. And if I did it and I'm a demon, it must be evil, right? I'd hope so. Like they want to have faith that their understanding is correct. They understand at least their part in the ineffable plan that the creator, God, is put together. Anyway, from a story point of view, we introduce the two core characters, and we get the sort of premise and like idea of what the show is going to be about. The promise of the show is on page 2. So it's a great opening. And from this moment, we go to we introduce a few plot lines. We introduce Crowley in the past and Aziraphale and Crowley in the present. And basically, this pilot sets up this one idea that the Antichrist is going to be born, and your lives as you know it is over. We're going to prepare for the great war, the war between demons and angels, the war that's going to end society. And Crowley and Aziraphale have really complicated feelings about this. Like, oh God, really? They like the world. They like being part of humanity, or at least interfacing with humanity. They like the status quo. And we see Crowley initially, taking on the task of, having to, get the baby, deliver the baby to a particular abbey where these, satanic nuns are going to plant the baby with the right family, which is going to be an American politician's family, because he just happens to be in the English countryside with his pregnant wife. But concurrently, there is another random English family who, not according to the plan of the satanic nuns or the demons, they're giving birth to their child too, and due to Crowley's sort of lack of kind of follow through and just sort of basic incompetence, he sort of hands off the baby to one of the nuns, and the nun gets it switched around which baby she's taking. So the satanic nuns, after they place the babies next together, they take the English baby and place it with the American ambassadors. And I think her name's Sister Mary, who's sort of Mary Loquacious, I forget. But she's like the new nun at the Satanic Order. She takes the Antichrist and gives it to the British couple, and which they name Adam. And so that's one plot line moving forward. The other, obviously, is Crowley and Aziraphale in the present, functionally sort of dealing with, or not the present, but we're jumping back and forth a little bit, but functionally them sort of coming to terms of, well, what are we going to do about this? Are we going to are we going to follow through on our roles, or are we going to try and stop this? Are we going to try and stop the Antichrist from being born? And basically, they try to sort of influence the baby, because they don't know they messed up either, obviously, and so they're trying to go to the American ambassadors. The American politician's baby, and sort of raise him and be like their godparents, the gardener, whatever. And they realize at the end that they have the wrong baby, because he's evil, but he's not the hound hasn't come for him. So we sort of realize, in the new world, the premise of the show is, oh my God, we're supposed to enact the end of Armageddon, but we've lost the Antichrist, which is a great concept. And this is a very plot dense show. Alexie, you can come in and help me talk about the show at large. But yeah. I think that's a great new world. Them trying to find the Antichrist, trying to make sense of things, trying to stop the ineffable plan, or at least understand it. And it's complicated because when we introduce Witch Hunter, the prophecies of Agnes Nutter, Witch, the and then Adam and his friends throughout the story. Like there's a lot of plot lines that at the end of the day, Crowley and Aziraphale don't really change anything, like their impact. Like it's all kind of in the book. It was more overt. Like it was sort of like a hollow victory at the end of the book. And something I didn't really like was sort of like, well, nothing we really follow. It was all inevitable. It was just playing out. It wasn't
inevitable.
It's inevitable, right? The one thing that I think, I'm just jumping to the end of the show. The thing I think really makes the ending hit harder is the invented bit about them switching bodies and like overcoming their bosses, where their arc goes from we're playing out our roles, we're trying to stay in our lanes and try to influence things in the way we want, to completely being like, fuck it, I like the world, I'm not going to let it end. And basically Aziraphale telling his Archangel Gabriel to go fuck himself, and vice versa.
So it makes me wonder, do we have dual protagonists, Adam?
See, in the book, I'd say the protagonist was Adam. It's complicated. This is a book
argued. Yeah. Although I feel like in if you were going to go in the most traditional analysis, I think that Crowley would be the protagonist of the series because he was the one that was charged with bringing the Antichrist there. I
think it's semantics, though. I do think functionally they both fulfill that role. You having camera problems?
I know. I don't know why it's doing this to me. Ugh, what a time. Maybe I'll switch to my other camera. Let's try that.
Okay.
Did you hear all that?
Yeah, I heard everything. You're still still clear, but
okay.
I really, what I love about the show is mostly its tone and like the sandbox it's playing in, like playing with like, sort of imagery of, one of the most popular religions in the world with total like freedom and just to have fun with it. I lost Alexie, but, and what I think the pilot does specifically well is it sort of shows you really right up front what its rules are, what tone it's going to be, what game it's playing, and has fun with it. And it ends with a great sort of call to adventure of like, this is what this is going to be about. And it surprises you.
Mm-hmm. I was here the whole time. I just couldn't be seen. So.
Oh, great.
Glad you didn't start talking about me.
Fuck.
Hey to Lore Master. Lore Master's back. Lore Master, the Simon's Demon. We already have some questions which I think are interesting and relevant. And also, yes, Michelle, they're doing a season 2, which is that's part of why we were inspired to pull this out now. Was because that was something that was announced relatively recently.
So
it was announced close to when we planned the schedule for this month.
As a fan of the book, so they were planning a sequel together, but they just never had the time to write one. And they had like brainstorming ideas. Like they have notes of what the sequel would have been. And also, just to be fair, the book was like 70% Terry Pratchett, only 30% Neil Gaiman. It's like, this is very much like a Discworld story, if for all intents and purposes. Like it feels like one, but what the sequel would have been about, apparently it's about an angel shows up in Soho who has no memories of who they are or the past. And I think that's going to be an interesting story.
Is that what season 2 is going to be?
I believe so. They're going to use the sequel idea. And it's going to be all about the angels pretty much and their dysfunction.
That's fun. Yeah, because I feel like we leaned demon in this season a little bit.
Yeah. Also, the angels are more interesting.
Yeah, they seemed. So this was something that I wonder if Jan's here with us today, but Jan pointed this out in our workshop yesterday when we pulled up the opening scene. And something that was interesting that she pointed out is that we have the angel lying within his like first bit of dialogue, which I think it's like a really interesting choice. And it kind of shows us the whole theme of what we're going to be playing with here. Because it's when Aziraphale and Crowley are talking about Adam and Eve, and they're looking at them, and Crowley's like, didn't you have a flaming sword? And he's like, I lost it. when really he gave it away. And then in the second scene in the script, I don't remember if it's actually the second scene in the pilot. I think it is in the pilot. I just don't remember where. He lies about like which books he has in his bookstore because he wants to keep them for himself. So it's like it's setting up that theme in a really interesting way at the very beginning. Adam, do you know the answer to this? Can you discuss choosing to adapt the story to television as opposed to film? How do you decide?
So a film is a self. Here's the best way to I've heard it explained, because also the lines are becoming blurred as we have limited series. Like this was initially intended as a standalone story, basically a 6-hour movie. But traditionally speaking, movies are about huge life-changing, life or death events, huge stakes. Television is about, like, for example, this is the example I heard. Star Wars, the movie, is about blowing up the Death Star to save the Rebel base. Star Wars, the TV show, are about the janitors who work on the Death Star. You know, that's like the crude differentiation. I will say that this story was basically a 6-hour movie, had a beginning and a middle and an end. Even though every story was self-contained, I'd say if you want to tell a TV story, it's going to be mostly about relationships. It's going to be about relationships that develop over time, whereas movies are more about the ideas and the things that are happening, a sole point of view.
Oh. Did we lose Adam or did we lose me? That's the question.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Hello. I couldn't tell if I was lost or if you were lost.
My internet went out.
Oh, okay. I was like,
it's totally
who is missing here? No, that's...
Was I frozen? Right.
Yeah, that makes sense, though. I agree. And I think that, like you were saying, it's like, in general, with TV, you're going at like a slippery, or not slippery, you're going a gradual slope. Whereas TV is like a very defined arc, you know, like a character arc. You have a transformation. The character is flawed. They have like one beginning trait. And by the end of the movie, they're going to have changed that trait for better or for worse. They're going to experience some change in pursuit of like one specific objective. TV, generally, you have a much more gradual slope. You might have like a season-wide objective, but then you have a bunch of little mini objectives throughout, typically. And the characters don't change that much. It's more about the relationships. And if they do change, it tends to be much more gradual and less like, I'm a completely new person. Whereas movies are about, at their core, movies are typically about someone changing in a very fundamental way, like becoming a new person. That's like what most movies are. And TV is more about the relationships and like gradual change. And then limited series are like this weird new space in between. And I think that they probably chose to go the route of a limited series for this. Well, I think they didn't do regular TV because there's a limited amount of content. And Terry Pratchett was specific about that he wanted Neil Gaiman to adapt it. And like, I think it's kind of like respecting the fact that they're going to stick to the written story to a degree. They're going to like stick to like the heart of the written story anyway. But if they went a movie route, then you would lose a lot of the ability to linger with the side characters. It would probably be just about Adam or just about Aziraphale and Crowley. You'd have to really pick a side and go with that. I would imagine that the movie version of this, the movie version, not of the book, but of the series, the limited series that I saw, would be Crowley needs to deliver the Antichrist. And that's his objective the whole time. And he's like pursuing that actively. It would be much less about like, I don't know.
I do think you can do a movie version of this. I just think it would just not be as good or interesting.
Yeah.
Like I think like what would have happened is the pilot would have been the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like it would have been all like really fast, no time to get a sense of like who these people are and why they are. Like it would have just been like lightning, and then like the end of Act 1 would have been anyway, but it doesn't matter. But the point is, this is the story we got. The question was about TV or film. What do you think you can get a job in?
Yeah. I mean, so, and then if you're thinking about that, if we're going to get that pragmatic, then realistically,
TV.
if you're going to get a job in TV, but if you want to get the thing you wrote made, write a movie.
Yeah.
If you want to get a job, write for TV. Yeah. Like that's because typically.
That's right.
Yeah. It's that's
so if you have a pilot script and you're trying to like get in writers' rooms, you shouldn't. It's like winning the lottery, having your actual specs pilot script get picked up. I mean, it can happen. It's just extremely unlikely. Whereas you're
you're much more likely to have the feature you wrote get picked up. And I say much more likely, like it's something that's like...
It's like winning a much smaller lottery.
Yes, a smaller lottery. Michelle said, one thing I didn't really get were the romantic relationships. Did you get them? Yeah, I thought that was kind of weird.
They were they didn't translate, in my opinion. So let me just talk about the things I didn't like compared to the book. I thought the Terry Pratchett isms, with the exception of Crowley and Aziraphale, didn't translate to the screen.
Can you explain what that means for
I'm
someone
going
who
to in a
doesn't
minute.
know?
And every single Discworld adaptation, in my opinion, is terrible. So something he does, does a classic like Douglas Adamsy observational humor thing. He puts modern personalities on fantasy archetypes. Like I'm just making an example. Like he'll have like this like a powerful old wizard is just like a shitty tenured professor. Like, and it's funny. It's really reads well when you can imagine the asshole on the stage on the page. Like that, it's like so much of like the joy of his books is like, oh my god, I know that person. But he's like a hero, and it's like he puts modern, and a lot of people do that. No, I'm not saying that he's exclusive to that, but like that's something that he does really well. And I think like the witch hunter character was kind of a version of that, like conspiracy theorist, sort of thing. Like the witches, and I just feel like the TV show didn't show that in the light that it was on the page. Like it was way more like I'm making fun of these people than like I'm going to empathize with who this person is.
Yeah.
Like, and they were also more minor. So it was like more of like the whole Pulsifer thing, like he sucks at computers. Like that was pretty much it. And it was kind of just a joke that, oh my God, the fact that he'll break any computer he touches is how they stop the thing from going off. Right. Like
that was cute. That was funny.
I liked that. Yeah. It was funny. But like,
I do agree
the
that
romance didn't. I don't know.
No, it didn't really add anything. I don't think. Like it didn't. The only real payoff was the joke about it burning the map. Like that was funny, but that was to me the only real upside of them having a romantic connection.
It's just lazy Hollywood stuff.
Oh,
well, they've got to hook up, right?
Yeah, they got to.
Now, to be fair, the fact that Neil Gaiman was actually the showrunner, I think, has a lot to do with why the tone was what was good about it was good. But I also think what was bad about it was bad because of him. Like there was kind of a double-edged sword in that sense.
So that makes me want to take a look at the script. So.
Yeah, Michelle, the way I read that is that they were that it was kind of like a weird, like kinky thing that they were both like role playing together at the end. Like that's what it turned from like real animosity to like that weird thing. I don't know if that reads well. Like I read it as kind of like, oh, well, that's that couple who's that, like because you don't know how long they've had that sort of weird like role playing thing, like, oh, you're a witch, I'm a witch hunter bullshit. I didn't like it, don't get me wrong, but like I feel like that's the direction they were going.
That's what they were trying to do anyway.
Yeah, that's what they were trying to do.
So this should be linked in the description below if you want to check it out. It is the pilot script for Good Omens. And if you take a look at this, it says it's the third draft tidy, which is like a cleanup, I would assume, the British word for cleanup or polish. That's actually probably what it is.
That's what it means.
The US, it would be polish. But so just a reminder that even Neil Gaiman has to do several drafts for everyone to.
He's got notes from Amazon producers too, you know.
Yeah. So Adam and I were both looking at the script yesterday and before, and we're both really, really impressed by some parts. Some writing is just absolutely brilliant, and it's also really clear that Neil Gaiman wrote the novel or like worked on the novel. And I just wanted to show some parts that I really enjoyed, and I even posted some of these in the Discord. If you're in the Discord with us, just because it's so like there's just so many funny pieces. Now I'm blanking on where they are. But so one reason why you know that this is coming from a novel writing background, someone who isn't necessarily writing a ton of scripts, is because they break a lot of rules in a way. Like this section here is very, very prosy.
Yes.
But he can get away with it because, well, I mean, he's Neil Gaiman, so that helps. But also he gets away with it because the writing is really interesting. It's really good. So I'm going to read it, and then we can look a little bit at like how it breaks rules and why he gets away with it. So interior, Aziraphale's house, or Aziraphale's bookshop, afternoon. Aziraphale is answering the phone. He has not changed since we saw him as an angel. He looks like a happy, affluent, used book dealer. He's a kind-looking gentleman whose sartorial style runs to bow ties. He thinks a little tartan is nifty and would use the word nifty with pride. His bookshop is chaotic, crowded, glorious, dusty. He is sitting at a table at a desk piled high with books. So that's what I wanted to read, even though I floundered it a bit. But yeah, so the things that you typically wouldn't see in a script is the fact that he's using so many ing verbs here. Like instead of typically you would suggest for a spec script that somebody would write Aziraphale answers the phone instead of is answering the phone. I mean, screenplays are written in present tense, and in addition to that, it's shorter. Like it's going to save your page count. He's doing a lot of is this, is that.
Like instead of Crowley is forcing a smile, it would be Crowley forces a smile. Traditionally, just because it just looks cleaner a little bit, you know, on a screenplay. They're hyper vigilant about that shit.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, if this was, I mean, if I was going to give a screenwriting note to Neil Gaiman, which is a very bold thing for me to do, it would be that all of these details are really great, and you don't need all of them.
No.
That's my note. I would say, like, you can choose like one or two of these. Like the fact that he's a happy, affluent, used book dealer, the fact that he's a kind-looking gentleman whose sartorial style runs to bow ties, and the fact that he thinks a little tartan is nifty and would use the word nifty with pride. I would probably choose that last descriptor, and you don't even need the other ones, really. Just the fact that he's like a used book dealer, and then we get the vibe. This is kind of like novelistic, in that it's giving us a bunch of different things to go on, and it's really good writing, so he gets away with it. But it was just something interesting to note if you want to read through this script, how it differs from like traditional screenwriting that you would be told to aim for when you're writing your own scripts. But something that I think that Neil Gaiman does extremely well throughout this script is he captures the tone like in all of the scene description, which I think is brilliant. Let me see if I can find.
And the dialogue too. Like the dialogue throughout this script is what's great about it is that every utterance by a character feels like it has a voice specifically. Like the voices of the character is tied to like the choice of words they're saying and like the way they're saying it. Like it's really translated on the page in a strong way.
So this was the one that I found that I sent to Adam, and I was like, oh, okay. So here it is. Exterior, a graveyard, night. A small country graveyard, possibly ruined, rather creepy. We move through it slowly. It's misty and burr.
That's great. It tells you the essence of the feeling of what that moment is.
It's perfect. It's really great writing. Like I love that. And you immediately understand what's going on, and it takes up so little space on the page. Like you could go on and on and on about like the way that it looks, and all you really need though is that it's possibly ruined, rather creepy. It's misty and burr. it's we get it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend checking out this script. There's a lot of things like that. And what's also interesting is the way that things changed. In this draft of the script, which again was already the third draft, they had the narrator not come in until later. They were opening with Aziraphale and Crowley in the garden, and they flipped that. Yeah, I'm glad they did that. But in the series, they opened with the narrator, and I feel like that's a good thing to note for specs in general, is that opening with a scene tends to be viewed as stronger than opening with a narrator. And that's what happened in this draft. And then I'd be curious to know if the edit changed, like if it was changed in editing or if it was another draft that was eventually produced, or when that change happened that they moved the narrator first. But I think it was a smart choice for this version of the script to open with right in the action of the Adam and Eve scene, and then I see why they moved the narrator first to kind of orient us.
Let's go to the bottom of page 11.
Sure.
The scene where Crowley shows up at the graveyard, and with the other demons.
This one?
Yeah. So the all hail Satan. So like we look at from Haster's toad-like eyes to Ligger's fly eyes. Like we don't get much of a description ahead of time. Just like that's the first physical description of them, and it's like tells you everything you need to know about them as demons, without like going into like what their outfit looks like. It's just like one essence, and we suspect why Crowley might want to wear sunglasses. Right, that's have to look at them. Right. Crowley is sauntering up the path. He stops. They stare at him. All hail Satan! All hail Satan! Oh, hi guys. Sorry I'm late, but well, it is on the A40 at Denham, and when I tried to cut up towards Chorleywood, like immediately you get like the contrast in voice between the demons. Like this guy's like they said, he's gone native, right? He's been down here. He's been up there for too long. And this is a great piece of screenwriting right on top of page 12 that you'll like, Alexie. Haster interrupts him. Now we all here, we must recount the deeds of the day. And then in parentheses is like a silent, we do? Oh, yeah, I remember this. But he's saying, oh, of course, deeds, yeah. Like without like really cluttering up, like sort of Crowley's eyes light up with confusion and then he nods into it. You know what I mean? Like it just really cuts to the essence of like an actor would look at that and instantly know what to do.
Yeah, there was another example of that somewhere, I think up a little bit higher, that I thought was really smart. It was just, let's see if I can find it again. Because this is the kind of stuff that like, when I read a script, I'm kind of looking for like, what's the like thing that I can take from this and try to pull in, because it's, you're not going to pull everything.
No.
So it's just about like choosing which things you're gonna focus on. I might not be able to find it, and I don't want to just scroll.
A good one is on the next page of page 12, where they're all like sharing stories about like who they've corrupted. Like Haster's like, I have tempted a priest in a year.
Oh, this was it. This was the one I wanted.
Oh yeah. Liger's like, I have corrupted a politician. I shall let him think a tiny bribe would not hurt. Within a year, we shall have him. Haster hisses approval. They stare at Crowley. Him next. But that's good because he has the best one. You'll like this. You look at their faces and know that they won't. Like that's good. It gets to the essence. It's so simple and it's focused on character and reactions and emotions, perceptions. The good shit.
And the reason, so I think that something that gets confusing is that technically saying things like this feels novelistic at first glance. Like, I could see why someone would be like, you can't do that. Where it says, Haster hisses approval. They stare at Crowley. Him next. But that's good because he has the best one. And then this thing where we say, like, we look at their faces and know that they won't. At first, these things sound like a little bit like introspective. And so I could see why someone might have like a gut reaction to be like, that doesn't count. But it's very visual. Like,
he's pointing the camera.
Yeah. He's pointing the camera when he says they stare at him next. And then the note about that's good because he has the best one is really an acting note.
Yeah.
But it's not delivered in a way like where you're saying, hey, actor, I need you to smirk. You know? It's like, it's giving them a little bit more to play with.
It's showing them actual motivation in a way that's filmable. Because like that social behavior, like you could see he's obviously the actor would be amping up. Oh God, yeah, this is a good one. And it's relevant to the social dynamic, right? Like this guy is not fit in with these classic demons. He rides a Bentley, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of like really good choices like that here.
I just love the next scene where he was trying to like cause a traffic jam, you know? Cause mild irritation for thousands.
It's true. 15 million pissed off people who take it out on each other, who take it out on everyone else, ruined days, ruined nights. The knock-on effects are incalculable.
Also,
it's true.
What I like is that, you know, this is actually like working for the bosses, but these guys don't like that. Like there's like a belief change about what does it mean? What does being mean to be evil? Right? Crowley's definition of that is in flux. And his beliefs about who he is and what he wants to do are totally opposed to these guys. And that's like an important part of like why they're antagonists in the story and like how this plays out. You got to have enemies.
Yeah. So something that I wanted to think a little bit about is I know that we started adding a coffee class for once a month or more, maybe eventually. We're looking really closely at the connection between plot and characters, like which we consider like two different arcs, or two different tracks of the story, right? Like the character's inner journey, so like their thematic journey, their flaw transforming to reveal their inner need. That whole thing is one side, and then the other side is their more physical, tangible journey towards their objective with obstacles in the way, and how those two connect or don't, and typically how in the things that move us the most, like the movies that stay with us the longest, those two things are woven together really seamlessly so that they feed off of one another. And I think that something that I think that this limited series does well, and that I think that this pilot sets up well, is I think it chose the right two journeys to mash on top of each other. If we're treating Crowley and Aziraphale as both like protagonists in their own right, which John's not here to tell me no. But if that's what we're doing, if we're looking at them as their own protagonists and they both have like their own inner emotional journey.
It's TV. It's pretty accepted. You can have multiple protagonists in a TV story just because it's just a larger narrative there. You could have an entire plot line where character A never meets character B.
Yeah.
Like that happens now.
I would bet you not a lot of money, but I would bet you that John would say Crowley is the protagonist.
Well, no, because he would push it. Yeah.
But it's just, anyway, I think that
it doesn't matter semantics at that point, you know.
Like, no, I was just saying. So I think that them as protagonists, I think that their emotional journey is this like becoming comfortable with the ambiguity, like the gray. Like Crowley, like the black, they were like very black and white, or they believe that they're supposed to be. And it's kind of like them coming to terms with who they actually are. Kind of like a demon angel coming of age story, actually. And then the journey that they chose to explore that with is kicking off Armageddon.
Yeah.
By bringing like bringing up the Antichrist and introducing him to his dad, Satan. It's basically the two different journeys, and the fact that those two are layered on top of each other, I think, is a lot of why it works. Like, this isn't about like an angel who like wants to be like, he doesn't want to like be like God's number one. Like, that's not his journey. He's not trying to suck up and be the best angel there is. His journey is about like figuring out what he wants.
Well, that's not like what the philosophical stakes are, right? Like, this story is about people who don't fit in,
right,
to the roles they're told they're supposed to play, and sort of them trying to find out, well, this isn't working for me. What does this mean? Like, the scene on page 54 where Aziraphale is reporting to his bosses, he sort of says, like, I feel like on a deep level, the child is being influenced toward the light by me. And everyone's like, oh, that's so commendable. Excellent work, but we'll be so understanding when you fail. And he'd be like, well, maybe I won't fail. And they're like, no, but, war is not to be avoided. It sort of shows like the angels also have their fucking bullshit, and they're all fucked up too. 54. It's the scene where it's just a small scene where like the angel number,
here we go.
Which is, after all, wars are to be won, not avoided.
Mm-hmm.
But continue the good fight. But really, we want to, because what it's really saying is that the angels and the demons are the same assholes who want to burn the world down. Which is a very controversial, some would say, sacrilegious thing. I'm reminded of the petition that was signed by over 20,000 people back when the show came out in 2019 by evangelical groups. That was like, this show, Netflix has to cancel this show because it's absolute, hypocrisy. But it's an Amazon show. And Neil Gaiman tweeted out, says everything, really. I thought it was great.
Whoops.
Can't even look close enough. Sorry, but I like that they're playing with these things, sort of asking good questions, because if you're like, well, okay, if this is true and this is all about a big fight for good and evil, but like, what would that actually be like? Like, what sort of dilemmas would you be having? Like, wouldn't you want to stop Armageddon? Wouldn't that be a terrible thing? Like, isn't the world something valuable too? Like, because I think a lot of apocalypse narratives sort of push the sort of idea that, and then everything will be all perfect forever and all terrible forever, rather than kind of like the mix of things that life is, right? And what this show is saying, especially like literally the last line of the show, is to the world. It's sort of a love letter to like humanity and the mixed bag we have, right? It's better than sort of like burning everything, or like, so it's the scene in this pilot where they talk about, you have eternity to look forward to, Do you know how long eternity is? It's just a really interesting take on the show. Like that aspect, those questions are so much fresher than the question of being like, gosh, I want to be the best angel I can be. Like the fact that he knows there's something wrong, but he can't articulate what it is interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. So I think something that, Adam, that you touched on that I'd like to bring up is, when we talk about theme, a lot of time we talk about theme as a thematic question that every character has their own answer to. And I think that this is an example of a show where that question and those answers come through really, really strongly. And I think it's connected to what you were saying before about like what you owe to who you were supposed to be, to like who you were, like what do you owe to who you were born to be?
Right. That's interesting.
We see all of these different characters grappling with. We obviously see it with Crowley and Aziraphale, because angel and demon, and they're both grappling with like what they were born to be.
So is Adam.
Adam, and then also the witch hunter kid, and probably the witch.
The witch too. Yeah, every character actually. They all have a sense of destiny and obligation to their roles, and they're all trying to find out what that means and how to be who they have to be. Like it's that's a really good way of articulating it. But like, if there was a character who was dealing with another core dilemma with a totally different implication, it would be totally out of sorts of the show. The fact that all the character, they have this many characters and they're all dealing with a similar core problem, aside from the external problem, which is apocalypse. That's really good. Can we talk about how much I hated the Four Horsemen? I thought that was so boring. I thought it was so boring. It was like, please, let's get back to the idea in the books. It was way more mysterious and interesting, but then it just looked bad on screen. Like, wait, it's just some people on motorcycles.
Yeah, I really wanted it.
Leather.
I liked the way that it was shifted to be modern. I thought that was interesting. I thought that there was some clever choices there, but it felt only to me really like a clever choice. It was more like I was watching it and saying oh, that's clever. Yeah. But that I wasn't really getting anything out of it. And I get why it had to be done, but I wish that they were more important.
There was a way they could have cut the Four Horsemen. I know it was in the book, but you got to be you can't be precious. I feel like they were a little too faithful to certain things, and the best aspects of the show were the stuff they added. The whole timeline of how Aziraphale and Crowley sort of fell in love and became friends, that in episode 2, I think that wasn't in the book. That was so good. It was so good to see how these two guys who hated each other forever slowly sort of come to like each other and sort of come to a professional understanding. And that's TV. That's showing how relationships grow. That's a huge pleasure that people take. We want to see people grow closer.
Yeah.
It's an interesting, or farther apart.
Yeah, that's true. We want to see connections and relationships. And I think that's why we go to TV a lot of times is, it's a different feeling than sitting down to watch a movie, which is about one person and kind of how the world revolves around them. And then TV tends to be about a broader world and the relationships that exist within it. And I think that so it makes sense that they would add more about Crowley and Aziraphale and their little not romance thing that they've got going on, their friendship and their intimacy and where that came from.
Also, I loved Jon Hamm as the Archangel Gabriel. He played such a smarmy, know-it-all asshole boss that you all you know what I mean?
Good at that.
He really nailed that. I thought that was great.
He's good at that. He's good in those roles for whatever that means for him.
Whatever that means for him. He's got the comedy gift. I want to see him do more comedy.
He was in Kimmy Schmidt, wasn't he? As the bad man.
Yep, I remember. And he was also in Curb Your Enthusiasm for I forget which season. Oh, the newest season. And he played he was doing a role based on Larry, so he was ghosting him and trying to get insight into why he does things. It's just so terrible.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So does anybody have anything you'd like to talk about the series? We can kind of open it up.
Yeah. Sorry, we're just
no.
Going on and on.
I mean, we're just here to chat about it. And Adam, I wanted to bring something up to you that is a little tangential.
Oh, great.
But are you ready? So I had a friend recommend this book to me, which is from the Codex Alera series. Are you familiar with it?
I am not.
So the reason why it was pitched is because I'm going to read you this from the wiki page, which is what they told me. And I was so offended that I got the book.
Oh, Jim Butcher.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's one series, but yeah.
I just got it today. Furies of Calderon. It seems like a book that you would have read. Surprised you haven't. I'll read it first.
I haven't.
Wow. It's amazing. I'll read it first. But let's see. So this is the quote that they shared with me. I was so deeply offended by that I got the book. Ready?
Wow, shit.
I know. The inspiration from the series came from a bet Butcher was challenged to by a member of the Del Rey Online Writers Workshop. The challenger bet that Butcher could not write a good story based on a lame idea, and he countered that he could do it using 2 lame ideas of the challenger's choosing. The lame ideas given were Lost Roman Legion and Pokemon.
That's great.
So offensive. And this is the book that came out of combining the Lost Roman Legion and Pokemon.
I mean, Jim Butcher is a talented guy. I think he's a mixed bag, but I read his he has basically a series about like this wizard who lives in Chicago, and he like is hunting fantasy creatures.
I'm surprised that you haven't read him. It seems like something that
I've read him. I just haven't read this series.
Yeah, see, Michelle, that's exactly why I was offended, because the person told me this as I was talking about Pokemon. So I was like, that is horribly offensive.
Well, I think Pokemon is a brilliant idea. It depends on the context it depends on the context too. Like Pokemon is a brilliant idea in the context of an anime and it's a context of a video game. Mm-hmm. But in the context of like, because it's so gamey, I can see how people might see that like, oh, a Pokemon ripoff in a fantasy novel could sound like a bad idea. Like I understand the interpretation. I disagree.
Thank you, Sandra. It's the best idea. It combines sports, pets, and biology. I agree. It's literally you're going to get a team of magical monsters to go help you achieve something. How's that lame?
Alexie, this is not optically good considering there's a Bulbasaur right over your head. It's just not a good look.
I didn't even build
not a good look.
Carl
not a good look
to me.
No, nobody knows that.
There's so many. I need to get more stuff going on back here because it's very Pokemon heavy. But yeah, it was offensive to me. But it also, the reason why I wanted to tell you about it is because first off, how offended I was, and second off, to see if you'd read it. But also third off, because it's really your idea of, not your idea, but the thing you talk about, confluence, right? Bringing together two ideas and creating something new. And I like this. I feel like it might be a fun challenge to give people two quote unquote lame ideas, but actually make them lame. How was the Lost Roman Legion lame?
I mean, it's
like,
I think the word, it sounds corny to some people.
Yeah,
like it depends.
I guess.
And also like this is so much of the thing. This is kind of goes on. I totally believe in the idea that there's actually no such thing as a bad idea. It's all about context, right? Like, I mean, maybe that I'm sure there's somebody can say like, well, there's something that's just objectively a bad idea, but like anything can be done well if it's done with sensitivity, ingenuity, and compassion and empathy, right? Like depending on your skills as a writer and your ability to see things as a human being, you can do a terrible version. Like you can access something new that hasn't been done in the most generic idea out there. It's just, but the thing is you have to do the work and you have to like find an access point, find a way in that's exciting to you genuinely. So like I would imagine if in this Furies of Calderon idea, Jim Butcher found something he was excited by the confluence of the two bad ideas, right? But they're only bad because like they bring up associations that are maybe stale or generic or cliche or lame.
That's true.
So Lost Roman Legion could be really cool. It's just,
I thought that sounded cool. I was like, is that like some like lame thing? And then I clicked on it and I think it's just like history, whatever. Also, Michelle, don't I know it?
Alexie's trying to get on there.
Immediately. I said I would die to be on that show. Not on it. Not on it. I want to be writing it. I would like to be on it. I would be on it. I'd voice a Pokemon. But anyway, yeah. So I'm curious about this book. And it also made me think about like what you were talking about before with what Terry Pratchett does, which is like a confluence of fantasy ideas and modern personas and modern personalities, and how that is part of what makes his stuff so charming. And it's like that. It's what we were talking about in our workshop yesterday about what's the game.
Yeah.
Like, what's the one thing that you're doing? Like in your world building, what's the one thing you change that ripples out and affects your entire world? And really focusing on that one intersection of things. And yeah, I think
you've got to create like the spark of light, the spark of inspiration, like the spark of excitement, and no matter what you do. And sometimes it's not even just additive, it's subtractive.
Yeah.
Like, what does like a King Arthur legend look like if I get rid of the knights? Like that's a good question, right? Like, or if I get rid of feudalism, or just you the things you think are tied to the idea, the core assumptions that are in every iteration of it, like go through the thought experiment and just sort of being like, well, what if I take this out? What, does it still work? What if I add this thing to, like, and just sort of to think in that sort of think in the language of the things. Sorry, this is so vague, but like think in like the language of your like childlike inspiration. Like sometimes it's okay to go vague and to go into like weird notions that are totally not tied to character or story, to find character and story, right? Because like once you can be like, well, what does King Arthur look like without the knights or without feudalism? Be like, okay, and then you answer that question, be like, but who would live there? What would be happening? Who's there? And that's when maybe a spark happens of something interesting, right? And like you start going somewhere that you're excited by. The whole idea is to find something you're excited by, because if you're excited by it and you have talent and ability, and I don't mean talent in the sense of like just natural gifts, I mean like nurtured, skill, insight, empathy, you can make something that sucks great.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's true. Adam, what would your starter Pokemon be? It's a really important question from the comments.
There's the real answer of what I did when I was 8. And then there's what I would as a 29-year-old do. I raised Nidoran in my first iteration. I ignored my Bulbasaur. I was like, and I got into a Nidoking. And I was like so fucking into like how badass this like thing was. It's got the horn and whatever. And its best move at the time, because I was an idiot, was Thrash. And that does a lot of damage, but it does self-inflicted damage too. Now, I don't know. I'd probably be, I would go Abra. If we're talking first generation, I always liked the weak psychic Pokemon that would turn into like super powerful later.
Yeah, Abra is a good one. I picked Dratini because I really want a Dragonite. I know it's cheating. I don't care.
It's not a starter.
I want it.
You need something in the initial.
Abra. It was in the initial 150. You mean like the early
you can
game?
get an Abra in Fairnham Woods, like in the first area, and then you can raise it to beat all the gym leaders. Oh, let's talk about this. Sorry. Sandman. Do you think this new Sandman adaptation will be good? You know it will be bad. I don't think so. Honestly, the talent is okay on it. Like they have a great cast. I think it's going to be interesting, and I think there are going to be things about it that are awesome, and I think there are going to be things about it that aren't great. I truly don't believe it's going to be like an all-out net loss. I think if you compare it 1-to-1 to the comic books, it'll never live up to the comics because of how Sandman is it's considered like one of the greatest graphic novels of all time because it broke so many barriers. So any screen adaptation that is compared to, like, it's just not going to be as good. But like if you look at it, I think there's an opportunity for something cool to happen, and I think the cast is awesome. So maybe parts of it can be better. Like if Neil Gaiman is as involved as I think he is, I think it'll probably be I think it'll be very similar to Good Omens in terms of execution. I think some of the new parts are going to be great, and some of the old parts weren't going to work that well on screen.
Neil Gaiman is on the up and up. Not that he wasn't already there, but
he's having a great decade.
His career is on fire. On fire. Did you watch American Gods? I liked the first season when it had Brian Fuller as a showrunner. I didn't watch American Gods, and I should because I really liked the book.
It's unfortunate that season 1 is the only good. Like they had a lot of behind the scenes drama that fucked up the show. Like they switched showrunners like 3 times, and the person who was like really passionate about the material left, and the show kind of got lost a little bit, unfortunately.
That sucks.
Yeah. I personal lore master, I'm going to disagree with you. Watchmen, the film, I really dislike. And I don't like Watchmen at all.
The series?
Oh, you mean the series? It was okay. Here's the thing. I watched it at a time where I was really burned out on superheroes. So I'm the wrong person to ask.
Mm-hmm. I was not in the mood to watch something as like intense as Watchmen was when I watched it, but it was still good.
I've heard good things. I think I've watched like 1 episode of it, so I can't actually say if the Watchmen series is bad. Yes,
Yeah.
the rest of American Gods it's a real shame because the book is so good, and a lot of the talent is really good on the show. It's just I don't think the writing was really in place, and it's Stars, which is a weird network.
Yeah, I don't like things that I have to buy another subscription to. That's my rule. Oh. Yes, Regina King was fantastic in Watchmen, though. That is undeniable. And yeah, you know what? That actually, it did accomplish, I think, some really important things, because it did open up a new conversation about the Tulsa Massacre. And I don't think it did it in a way that felt like mission first. Like it felt like it, to me, it felt like story first. And I feel like that is important in getting people to like come around to things that they might not have known about.
First of all, I have not actually seen the rest of Watchmen. I watched the first episode and I wasn't in the mood, so I don't actually have a legitimate opinion on the show.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, because Neil Gaiman, he's until we find out years later that he's like a horrible person.
Trash. Yeah.
He's great right now. He refused to make Anansi Boys for like 20 years because all the studios wanted to make it a white cast, and it's like literally about like an African god and like his son. So like like it didn't make any sense. And he said no for years. So like you have to give him credit for waiting for fucking Americans to catch up. They're terrible. I'm an American. I don't know. Everybody's terrible. I think humans are terrible.
Cute. Optimistic.
Yeah. I've been watching a lot of that YouTube channel, and then in the new version, what's his name? Andrew Callahan's show about Channel 5 news. And oh my God. First of all, that's the best journalistic content on YouTube. So y'all should watch it. I don't even know what you're talking
about. You should share it with. You should send me some.
Oh my God. It's like he has this amazing, he goes to places like Trump rallies, QAnon events, flat earther events. And he'll just sort of let people talk.
That guy. Yeah, I do know that.
Great. It's great. Oh my God. There's this one where he did a 4th of July celebration on like a beach in like during quarantine, and all these dumb like kids and the shit that was coming out of their mouth was insane. So you should all watch that. I forget why I brought that up, but it's great.
I have seen that. I've seen it on Twitter.
It's great.
Yeah. It was pretty like, I can't watch those things because they crush me too much. But it is.
No, but that's humanity. So that was my point.
I can't.
That's who we are. That's who we are deep down. You know.
I can't. I don't need that in my life. I already know. I understand. I don't need to see it over and over. But yeah, it's Lollapalooza. Yeah. Oh, I want to go ahead and say what we're going to do for next week.
Oh yeah, sure.
So, assuming that it actually came out, because it was supposed to become available today on Netflix, I'm going to need to confirm. We're going to do Vivo, the new animated movie musical by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I have not seen it, so I'm looking forward to it.
Me neither, because it just should have hit Netflix today, but I need to double check before that. And I'm excited about it because we were going to do In the Heights, and then everything got moved around. So we will do this one instead.
Yeah, I've got an interview with Andrew next time, and it's great. It's all about me, and it's going to show me in a completely positive light.
Oh, yeah? Is that how those go?
Yeah, Samantha, he went to the Area 51 raid, and all the people were supposed to like raid Area 51, who all believe in aliens are secretly being housed there. And there were some crazy people there. It's great. It's a great video.
I love how aliens we just casually started talking about UFOs a month ago or something, and then now we aren't. It was wow. Why did they remove In the Heights from streaming?
Because it was it was part of the initial deal of it would be it comes out in theaters and concurrently on HBO Max, and that was only 30 days. And it's going to come out on some other streaming platform soon.
Mm-hmm. I hope that we keep with streaming stuff. I understand why people want theaters, but like I would pay more to stream something in the first month if I really wanted to see it, and I'm still
Like
not
if
comfortable going to a theater.
like if we're really in the height of the pandemic when Dune comes out, I'll just pay $30.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I feel like they could get away with it.
I also really want them to make a sequel because I know they haven't greenlit one yet, and that's like really frustrating.
Is it just because it's so freaking expensive? Probably.
So it's complicated because it was obviously made before the pandemic, and it's a $150 million movie, and that they're trying to start off a new Dune franchise with, and they only did the first half of the first book. So whether or not we get the second half of the first book, which is like the end of the story, completely depends on if they make enough money. And if we aren't on it, if it's not able to make money back from streaming, which if other films are a marker, they don't. Black Widow did not make a lot of money because they did the concurrent release thing. That's why Denis Villeneuve was fucking furious when news came out, because he was like, I want to finish my movie, and Warner Brothers just sold my movie to HBO Max.
Oh, yeah. I mean, now there is that whole conversation that's happening about these studios selling it to streaming platforms without really, like, I guess they haven't had to negotiate that really in the past. Like, it's kind of a new thing that things are intended for theaters and then now are coming out on streaming platforms, and that kind of stuff wasn't necessarily negotiated into contracts. That was negotiated pre-pandemic. And the studios are not doing a good job at communicating with people. So, I mean, it's good that some people are pushing back to make sure that things are at least communicated.
Samantha actually is touching on the real huge thing about why we don't have as much money in the film industry. DVD sales used to make up for the loss on revenue on feature releases. And that used to be huge. Like, you used to be able to bomb at the box office but still make a profit. Now if you bomb at the box office, you're dead. And
really?
Because reselling for streaming, it's totally a hop. It depends on like if it's a valuable IP, and it depends on.
So if it bombed, then they're not going to pay you that much for streaming.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas you could. There's so many quote unquote cult classics that were just totally, became franchises because of DVD releases. Fight Club barely made any money when it came out, but it became a huge success on DVD. So many. But like, aside from like franchises, that isn't a franchise. It gave more cash flow and an attitude of taking chances on smaller things. So you used to have more original ideas because the stakes weren't quite as high. You'd be like, oh, we'd make money later.
That's interesting. I did not know that whole deal. And I also hadn't really thought about how much money is made on streaming. And yeah,
not that much, not as much relative to like how overpriced Blockbuster was.
Oh my God, Blockbuster.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you remember Redbox? That's probably still a thing some places, but I
like, think of the markup.
Thought that was so cool.
Well, Redbox existed because of the markup on DVDs at like Walmart and stuff. People used to like go to like spend $12 on a piece of plastic that cost 30 cents to manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's just pure money. They're making like $5 off a DVD sale.
Man, oh man. I mean, I think that like just things have to get figured out about streaming, and like we're just at the very beginning of it. So it's good, I think, that the people are trying to figure out exactly what does that mean, and like how do you get paid from it, and those kinds of
things are going to get worse for smaller creators when they start doing these bundled things. Like, you notice a lot of companies are like doing like shared subscription ideas, like, oh, you get Spotify and HBO Max if you sign up for my cable, right? Like, they're doing like a bunch of cash sharing, and none of that money, if we look at how the music industry works, none of that money ever goes to creators. It always goes to shareholders.
That's stupid.
It's terrible. Yeah, it's basically late stage capitalism. Not to get too political, But like it's structurally made that way, and it's like if you have all the power in the situation, you do the thing that would make you like you'd make a huge deal that would make your share prices go up if that's where your money really is at, and you're in a corporate structure. Like they're doing what they're supposed to do. It's just now that all these movie studios are getting bought up by tech companies that are hyper corporate, it's getting worse.
Mm. Michelle said, would you ever do a coffee class on audio dramas? We did have Jocelyn come in. I don't know if you checked that out. It wasn't like we were like analyzing an audio drama, but yeah, I'd be down to do a coffee class on an audio drama. I would want to make sure it was something that was like not like a radio show, like something that was like scripted. So I guess, I mean, that's what you said, audio drama. As long as it was like narrative, I'd be down. If you have an idea for something you might want us to check out, let us know. We're always open. We're trying to try new things in coffee class. That's why if you look at our page, you can see that the third week in August, we're doing connecting plot and characters in Pixar films. And we're looking at 3 because we thought that was fun. Last time we're looking at Toy Story, Inside Out, and Coco, and looking at how in those 3 films, Pixar handled the internal and external journey and those kinds of things. So we're open.
We've John cut for last week, right?
That's the plan. We need to
get him on here.
We need to get him on. He's been stressed.
Late. He's been stressed.
I know.
He's been hanging in the Hamptons.
Stressed in the Hamptons. So stressful.
To be fair, he's old.
He is, and I mean,
you guys can play this back to him. I don't care.
Tell him. He'll be the first one to say it. But yeah. So I hope that Michelle, if you could drop those in Discord, that would be awesome. I think that audio dramas are a great place for writers to consider right now. I mean, it's still like an industry that's like growing and slowly, my impression anyway, is that it's slowly getting more and more money into it. It was not even that long ago, it was like severely underpaid. But I think like we're figuring out how to make it more profitable and that it'll continue to be a thing. And what's really nice about it is that it's something you can do. You can produce it on your own and then have produced work. It's easier to produce than having to go out and shoot something on your own. And yes, I agree, Theo. I would like to make one. I'm writing one right
Files. Now. That's the name of the other series by Jim Butcher that I've read.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
It was bothering you this whole time.
It was. I had to look it up. It's from a perspective of a private investigator and wizard as he recounts investigations into supernatural disturbances in modern-day Chicago.
That's fun.
Sounds like a collection of bad ideas. But
there you go.
And I will say that it's fine. Didn't do anything for me particularly, but it's
all right. Well,
that's because I hate Chicago.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Someone here is from Chicago. I can feel it. Statistically, someone here is from Chicago. Cool. But I think that's it for today.
All right.
I hope that this was interesting to you. I'm having fun looking at series. I think that it's a fun change of pace. And I hope that Vivo works out. If it doesn't, then we will be posting what we're going to do instead in the Discord. I imagine we'll just move the Pixar stuff up, if I had to guess. So, yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great weekend. And we will see you in the Discord next